Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Hey hey hey. A pile. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Hey hey hey. A pile. We are going to be discussing doo-doo today and the importance of that doo-doo pile and what it can tell you about your animals. First of all, this doo-doo pile is really in pretty good shape. It's a nice fresh pile from one of my adult sheep. You can see we've got the little individually formed biscuits or pellets, whichever you want to call them, and everything looks to be in great shape. But one thing we do around here is we collect regular fecal samples. And one of the things I did the other day when we got a new sheep, first thing I did was I collected a fecal sample from him, and I am glad that I did. First of all, how to collect a fecal sample. You need a sack, and this is a nice little Ziploc bag, and it's going to have my animal's name on it and the date. The next thing you want to do is you want to be sure and collect a very fresh pile. If possible, you want one hot off of the presses, if you know what I mean. This pile is the one we're going to use as a sample to collect. This is fresh. I saw her drop this just a few minutes ago, so I know that it's going to be a good sample to take. And the first thing I do is I put the sack on my hand, inside out. And I'm going to come down here to my little poop sample, and I'm going to try to gather up several little biscuits. And as you see, I'm putting them on the inside of the bag. And so I can do this with two hands or one hand. We're going to zip the bag closed so that my little poo sample is inside, as you can see. Now, what am I going to do with a poo sample? Well, I'm going to take it to the veterinarians. At the veterinarians for the exorbitant price of $7, the veterinarian is going to do a wet culture on this sample, and they can test and see what kind of parasites my animals have, or if there's any other medical conditions that they have that might need to be corrected. $7. Sometimes I will do 2 or 3 animals at a time just to get a broad sampling, and that will let us know how our deworming regime is doing, if we need to do any deworming regime, or if they're doing fine on their own, or if we need to change things a little bit because we're missing something. But basically, I want to feed sheep, and I don't want to feed parasites. So, here's where this story goes. As many of you who follow my channel know, we got a new baby lamb the other day. It's hard to say. Lamb. Anyway, he's not quite 2 months old, and he is still a bucket baby, and he is very small. The first thing that I did when he got home was I got a fecal sample from him to take to the veterinarian's office. The veterinarian cultured our fecal sample, and he came back with very few worm parasites, but he was showing coccidiosis. Coccidiosis is a protozoan that lives in the intestinal tract. If you have a lot of it in there, it will cause diarrhea, and it can even lead to death. I'll put a little thing right about here what the Merrick's veterinarian manual says about coccidiosis. So coccidiosis could affect all of my lambs, and we do not want that to happen. Now, the right thing to do whenever you get a new animal on the place is to put them in isolation, to keep them separate from your other animals, even in another part of the barn, until after you give them enough time to make sure that everything is okay with them, to do the testing you need to get done, and everything else. Did I do that? No. So what does that mean? That means that because I brought a lamb onto the place that has a parasitic disease, he has to be treated for 5 days with an anti-protozoan medication, and I have to treat the other 4 lambs as well for 5 days, which means I have to catch them every day and give them their medication. It stinks. Yes, I knew better. No, I didn't do what I know. And that's what happens. However, when the course of this medication is complete, my little ram lamb should have no protozoan and no worms in his system, and he should be able to actually gain weight and grow as he should and be healthy by giving my 4 little lambs that we have currently the medication as well. I'm going to prevent them from having any kind of setbacks. And how much did all of this cost me? The fecal exam on the ram lamb was $7. The medication to treat all 5 lambs for 5 days was $10. Not a very high price to pay. The only thing that's bad is my time and my effort. But I wanted you guys to know what to do and how important it is to do fecal exams on sheep and on cattle and on pigs and on horses. And usually if you do them once a year, as long as you're coming back good, that should be enough. If you have a problem, a specific problem, you may need to do them a couple of times a year. But you know, even at that, you know, $28 is a very, very small price to pay. You will make up that money very quickly in lowered feed costs and vet bills.